I consider myself to be somewhat of a rom-com connoisseur. I love the genre so much. I'm always down to watch a rom-com, and it's definitely the genre of movie that most of my favorite movies are in. Anytime there's a new rom-com coming out, I will drop whatever I'm doing and I'll watch it immediately. I love them so much. They're definitely my comfort genre and I can't get enough of them. So I thought it would be fun to combine two of my favorite things, rom-coms and books, and combine it for this video where I'm gonna give you book recommendations based off your favorite rom-coms. And it has been so fun to come up with all these recommendations and I can't wait to share them. If I've missed any of your favorite rom-coms, please let me know. I tried to stick with mainly the most popular rom-coms and then match those with the books, but I for sure missed some rom-coms. I am sure of it. I feel like this video could potentially be very long, so I'm gonna try to give very brief summaries of each of the books and the movies. But yes, without further ado, let's get into the video. I did in fact change my desktop for this video. I thought it was very fitting. The quality didn't really transfer very well, but that's all right with me. And then I have my list on my iPad, so if you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing. Okay, the first rom-com we're going to be starting off with is one of my personal favorites. It's actually my plane movie. So pretty much anytime I'm on an airplane, I will turn this movie on and I can never get sick of it. And that is When Harry Met Sally, a classic. Love it so much. And I have actually two book recommendations based off this movie. And the first one is actually You Again. I read this maybe 2 years ago, a year or two ago, whenever it came out, I can't remember. But this is pretty much the exact plot of When Harry Met Sally, but roles reversed. So like the girl in the book is very much like Harry and then the guy in it is very much like Sally. It was super fun. Like I would say it is pretty much like cut and dry, pretty much the same plot, except there are some subtle differences as well, but I really enjoyed this as well. And the next is a personal favorite romance book that I have, and that is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. This gives very much like the friends to lovers vibes that When Harry Met Sally gives as well, and it's just them kind of struggling with their friendship and ultimately figuring out that they have feelings for each other and learning how to go about that. So those are my recommendations for When Harry Met Sally. The next movie I also have two book recommendations for, and that is for Notting Hill. I should have worn, I have a Hugh Grant t-shirt, but today's laundry day, so I wear it so often it is in my dirty clothes pile. So I would wear it, but I'm sure it's a little stinky. So I have two recommendations for that movie, and the first one is Funny You Should Ask. This book follows a similar plot, I would say, to Notting Hill in the sense that it's like a movie star and like a normal person interacting and then ultimately falling in love. In Funny You Should Ask though, it's actually the main girl is interviewing the movie star. It's kind of like a time jump thing, which was interesting. So it starts off like how they met and then ends up like 10 years I think in the future. So it is a little different than Notting Hill, but it definitely has similar vibes. And another book close to Notting Hill that I've read is Romantic Comedy. This personally wasn't my favorite book, but it is kind of similar vibe, normal person getting with a movie star. But in the book, the main girl actually works for a company that's kind of like Saturday Night Live and is a scriptwriter for them, and the guy in it is there as like a musical guest, and then they form a sort of relationship. And then it also actually, I think it is a time jump as well, which is interesting. But yeah, this book wasn't necessarily my favorite. Like I wouldn't recommend it, I guess, but it is very similar to the Notting Hill plot. The next rom-com was actually released maybe a few years ago and I really loved it, and that was Ticket to Paradise. And the book I would recommend to you based off this one is Happy Place by Emily Henry. The reason that these two are kind of similar is they both kind of deal with this couple that they've broken up and they're trying to get along with each other. You're dealing with two people that have broken up and are trying to kind of mask the fact that they've broken up, and you know, just dealing with past hurt that the two of them have caused each other, and kind of like in a lighthearted setting as well. I believe in Ticket to Paradise they're on some sort of tropical island. I forget where. Was it Bali? I think. I don't remember. But they're trying to stop the marriage of their daughter. In Happy Place, you know, it's all these friends reuniting. They're in Maine and it's super fun. So yeah, those kind of reminded me of each other. All right, the next rom-com is one of my personal favorites, and that is While You Were Sleeping. And the book that I found similar to While You Were Sleeping is The Love of My Afterlife. This is a recent favorite of mine. So in The Love of My Afterlife, our main character, she actually dies in like like a sort of comedic way. When she's in the afterlife, she meets this guy that she becomes immediately obsessed with, but he actually returns back to Earth. She has a sort of guardian angel that makes a deal with her that she can go back down to Earth for 10 days, and if she gets the guy to fall in love with her, then she's allowed to live again. So it's kind of this sort of quest to find him and to get him to fall in love with her. But along the way, she runs into her next door neighbor who, you know, kind of challenges her. They kind of have sort of an enemies relationship. He actually ends up helping her try to find this guy that she needs to fall in love with and to kiss. So it kind of complicates things because she kind of develops a crush on him, but it's like she has to get this guy to fall in love with her or else she isn't going to be able to live. So it is kind of messy in that way. And the messy relationship part really reminded me of While You Were Sleeping, and the whole like being super infatuated with one guy and thinking that's the person for you, and then realizing that maybe it's been someone else the whole time. I just loved it, and it reminded me a lot of that movie. All right, the next romance movie, I hesitate to call this a romance movie, just like how I hesitate to call this book a romance book, because it's not, and this book is not a rom-com in any sort of way, but I thought it would be interesting to mention it, and that is for 500 Days of Summer. I would recommend to you Normal People. I feel like in the same way, both of them are a story about a romance or just about a love story, but how messy it is and how complicated and ultimately devastating it is. Both of them are pretty similar, I feel like, in the complexities that they bring and how they make me feel after I watch them and then how they make me feel after I read them. So, next is one of my favorite, more like recent rom-coms, and that is Set It Up. The book that I would recommend to you based off that is The Hating Game. It's very similar in the way that it's like an enemies to lovers office setting. The main difference is that in The Hating Game, I don't think they're trying to, I haven't read The Hating Game in a really long time, but I don't think they're trying to set anyone up, but they're both vying after the same position. It's kind of similar in Set It Up, where they're both trying to climb the corporate ladder, and it kind of reminded me of The Hating Game. The next rom-com is 13 Going on 30, and the book I would recommend to you is The 7-Year Slip. The reason that these kind of remind me of each other is just kind of like the magical realism element in both the movie and the book. Also the way that in both of these, it's kind of like a time travel element as well. Kind of makes them reminiscent of each other. All right, one of my favorite rom-coms of all time is 27 Dresses, and the book I would recommend to you based off this is actually Beach Read by Emily Henry. I would recommend this because I feel like in both Beach Read and 27 Dresses, it's a very similar trope. It's very much polar opposite enemies to lovers, and I do really love that. I feel like the two, Gus and January, remind me a lot of the two characters in 27 Dresses, and also just in like the fun element of like them going outside of their comfort zones and like the fun activities they do throughout it kind of remind me of it. Okay, I hate to put this movie on the list because I absolutely hate this movie, and I actually don't really like this book, so I don't really recommend this, but I thought it would be good to put it on the list in case you do like this movie and you're looking for a romance book alternative. So for Groundhog Day, I would recommend See You Yesterday by Rachel and Solomon. In See You Yesterday, there's a sort of like Groundhog Day trope, if you will, and the two main characters are actually going through this kind of like repetitive day together. There's like a magical elevator, I believe, at their university. These definitely did remind me of each other, and that wasn't a good thing, but in case you like that trope, I would recommend See You Yesterday. Another more recent rom-com that I watched, I kid you not, this is so similar to an Emily Henry book that I love, and that rom-com is I Want You Back. First of all, I loved this movie, and I really haven't heard a lot about it, so if you love this book, I would recommend it, and that is Funny Story by Emily Henry. I Want You Back is very similar to Funny Story. It pretty much follows the same plot. Our two main characters, they both have just gotten dumped, and then they end up forming a friendship with each other. I devise a plot to be able to get their exes back, but very similar. Love them both. They're great. The next rom-com is What a Girl Wants, and for this movie, I would recommend A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow. This is a YA romance book. The main girl in the book ends up going to London and actually befriends this British boy. They end up hitting things off, and I don't know, it just kind of reminded me a lot of What a Girl Wants. Very sweet. I really like that book a lot. The next movie is To All the Boys I Loved Before, and the book that I would recommend for this is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I feel like they both have a female lead who is very much a lover girl. The whole movie and the book as a whole just really is just about like romance and like romance books and romantic movies. I love both of these so much, and I feel like they give off a very similar vibe. The next rom-com is one that I think it's a Netflix original that I saw a couple years ago, and that is Candy Jar. And the book I would recommend to you based off this is Today, Tonight, Tomorrow by Rachel and Solomon. This is a YA romance, and this is one of my favorite YA romances for sure. The trope of this book is an academic rivals to lovers, and that's very similar to Candy Jar. These two main characters are just constantly feuding with each other to try to be the top of their class, and it's actually their senior year and college applications are being sent out, just like the drama and stress that goes along with that. But then the two of them kind of realizing that they might actually have feelings for each other, which is really cute, and I like both these a lot. The next rom-com is Confessions of a Shopoholic, and the book that I would recommend to you based off this is actually one that I don't personally love this book, but I feel like the dynamic between the two main characters is very similar, and that's why I'd recommend it. And that is It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. And I know It Happened One Summer is actually supposed to be based off like Schitt's Creek, but that's not a rom-com, so I'm not recommending that with the book. But the girl in It Happened One Summer, I feel like is very similar to the girl in Confessions of a Shopaholic, and same with the guys in both of them. It's very much the dynamic of the girl is very like extravagant and, you know, doesn't know how to save her money, which same. And then the guy in the book is very much like more frugal, but still like really appreciates that side of the girl and like doesn't necessarily want her to change, but it's like a fun dynamic. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. That was kind of my like rapid fire book recommendation video for you. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, I would appreciate it so much if you subscribe to my channel. It would mean so much to me. And with that said, I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.